Hello and welcome to another lesson in our VBA programming, and in this lesson we're going to look at a workbook object variable. In our previous lessons we dealt with the worksheet object variable, and now in this lesson what is going to happen is this: we are going to collect our data from our user form as usual. This time we're not going to store it inside the same workbook. We're going to create a different workbook, store it in a different folder. We want to write a simple macro to open that workbook and store the data and close it back. You see how it's going to be very easy, simple, and fun. So let's quickly delve right into that. But the fact is that if you haven't watched our previous tutorials, you may find it difficult to understand. So to do that, we have the links in the video description below. You can just check the links and get access to the previous tutorials and follow from lesson 1 up to this level. That is where you can understand it better. So let's quickly delve right into that. But before that, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also like and share. Press the bell icon so that you can receive notifications anytime we upload new tutorials. Now let's delve right into these lessons. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another lesson in our VBA training, and in this lesson we're going to look at another object variable, and in this lesson we're going to look at the workbook object variable. In our previous lesson we talked of the worksheet object variable, so here we're going to talk of the workbook object variable. So let's assume that our data that we are collecting, we would want to store it in a different workbook. Okay, not the same workbook. Let me just open our folder. Not the same workbook. We would like to store it in a different workbook. How do we do that? So that is what we'll be looking at. And in this case, using the workbook, we'll be creating outside this workbook as our object, and we see how we can make reference to it, be able to write or collect all the information from this particular workbook to that external workbook. So we are going to do that without any problem, without any stress. Let's dive right into that. So just like how we go online, all in the name of registration, we give our names, date of birth, creating of accounts, whatever. When all those data and everything is collected, actually we don't even know where they are stored, right? But they are stored in a particular database, which, for example, when creating Google account, you give your name, your date of birth, your first name, last name, your age, everything, all those things. When we submit them online, they are organized in a database where if Google wants to give something to us, maybe wants to use them for whatever purpose, they can easily go for that, right? But we don't know where that database is located. It is the same thing here. Let's assume we want to write a program, okay, and maybe you don't want the users to see where the data they submit to that system that you are writing is going to be stored. This is one of the trick. Create a book, external workbook. That is, if you are using Excel, okay, you create external workbook and then write to that. Nobody will be able to tell unless another pro who is also a program who can read your codes very well will be able to know that no, this is what is happening. There is a workbook outside which all this data is stored in. Okay, so that is what we're going to look at. So let's dive right into that. Now let's make a copy of this particular one, and then let's just press Control on the keyboard. You just drag it, and we can then edit it towards project 5. Okay, let's do that. Sorry, project 5. Okay, now we'll press the Enter key to open it. Yeah. Perfect. Let's minimize this for now. Come back here and go for Alt F11 to trigger our code editor. Now, what we'll be doing here, we will need all these codes here, but there's some tweaking. I would have said we should just clear it and rewrite all over again, but we have done that several times, which seems boring to me myself now. By now, I believe you understand all these lines of code. So we're just going to do some stuff, some little editing. Okay, so let's dive right into that. But before we do anything at all, let's create that workbook which we want that data to be stored in. And to even do that, let's go ahead and even hide this one, right? Okay, let's keep it so that after storing data, we'll see that it's not even here. Okay, you can leave it open because we'll not make reference to this one. We'll see how it's going to be done. Let's go back this way. So here, let's minimize this. Let's go to our folder which we are working in. That is the VBA training folder. Now, let's create another workbook here. Go to new, come to Microsoft Excel. Let's name it database. Sorry, database. Just double press the enter key to open it. It shouldn't be a macro enable workbook. It should just be a normal workbook, right? It can be a macro enable, it doesn't do, but it should just be a normal workbook. So let's rename this sheet as what? Data. Okay, the same thing. There's data too. That is it. We're going to collect data from here, and the data is going to be something like this. Let's just copy what we have here. There's the headings here. Control C to copy, and then we come here. Control V to paste. So perfect. So now we can just click inside here, escape to clear the copying. So perfect. Yeah, that we can save this workbook now, and then we can close it. Control S to save. Now we can close this workbook now. Now we don't need it, should be closed. Okay, in our code we're going to make reference to it, open it, store data, and reclose it again. That is how it's going to be. Perfect. Now we can just go back to our form now here, and then let's quickly go back to our code editor. So let's see what we will be deleting and then what we'll be leaving again here. Okay, let's see. We'll do it with this. Perfect. So now the workbook we'll be using, okay, that is the workbook we just created outside. So we need to declare it. Okay, so we say dim wb as what? Workbook. Okay, so we are referring to that workbook outside there. Perfect. Now the next thing is to assign values to our variables, which we've already done here, which all the values will be coming from our data sheet called the form called sheet. Now the next thing we need to do is, after that, we need to now make reference to our workbook and open it. Okay, so to do that, let's just do that here. We'll be using this line of code, but not now. Okay, so to do that, we say what? Sets. What are we setting? Our workbook that we just declared here. Okay, set workbook. Please, I would have, like I said, I would have cleared all this and start all over again, but I see it to be boring. Would have just gone writing dimming again and all that. It's a bit by now. I believe you understand. Okay, so let's try it that way. So it is equal to what? Because even in normal circumstances, when we write this and we come to rewrite another program and we don't just have to clear everything, right? We just do some editing. So we have just begun with that. So let's continue. Yeah, that is how it's going to be. So set WB what? That is workbooks. Let me just confirm something here. Okay. Workbooks function. Okay. Dot. We want to do something to that workbook. What do we want to do to it? Open it. So we tab over, open, then into brackets. How do we want to open it? Now we need to take the file path where that workbook is located. The workbook we just created, that external workbook. So we minimize this, go to that folder. This is it. Okay, this is it. Now press and hold shift on the keyboard before you right click on it, else you wouldn't get the option I'm just going to get. Let's check something. I'm not pressing the shift key now, but I just want to right click on it, so you can see that there is no option like copy as path. That is, if you right click on a file without you pressing the shift key, that option wouldn't pop up. Just want to make it clear so that you know what's going to happen here. Now I'll press and hold the shift key and then right click. Now I have this now. Copy as path. That will help me copy the path of the file. So I'll just copy this. Then I can just minimize this now. I'll go back to my source code here. Okay. Then I'll just paste it here. Done like that. Perfect. So I just copied where that workbook is located because that is what I need. Then after that, just introduce comma. There are some parameters we need to pass. Now it's asking us whether we want to update the link. We don't want it, so we just say set that to false. Then comma, what next? We want to read. No, we don't want to read anything to it. We're only going to write to it, so we set read to false. That is what we need. These two parameters are enough for now. So we close this. Okay. So set it to false. Now the next thing we need to do is to what? To activate the workbook. Okay, after that we need to activate it. After opening it, we need to activate it. So let me just do that from here. So we say what to do that. You can know, you know what's going to happen. You say what? WB, sorry, WB dot what? Activate. Perfect. Now we have activated it. Now after activation, we need to set it now. Okay, to do that, we say what? Set. After activating it, we have declared another sheet here, which is what we say what? Theme sh as what? Worksheet. Now this but the worksheet we're going to talk about here is no more our data sheet, but rather the data sheet in the file in the workbook we created externally, which is closed now. That is what we're going to refer to as here. So we say what? Set sh equal to WB, that is from the workbook we created, which we've already declared from here. So we say WB which dot what? The sheet, if it has multiple sheets, but in this case we have just one sheet. Into bracket, what's the name of that sheet? That is data. We close, sorry, data, and I close the bracket. So I've just activated it. Now I need to what? Get the last row with data on that particular sheet. So the line of code here is already doing that for us, so we just need it, so it's going to be there. Then after getting that, now we need to start writing to what? Our empty rows. So we do that, and this is what is doing that for us. This particular line of code is writing to the empty row without data after this line of code getting that empty row for us. So this one will go ahead and write the information we're going to be giving here to that. Then after writing that, the next line of action is that we need to what? Activate this particular workbook. That is the workbook from which we are writing to, or we are taking the data from. Okay, so to do that, we say what? Okay, let me just minutes. Let's confirm this. So we say what? After opening it from here, we activate it. Then we set sh is equal to workbook.sheet. We are referring to that sheet on that. Okay. Then after that, we discovered the new row here without data, and then we've written to it. Okay, so now after writing to it, and then the next line of action now is this. Like I said, now we need to what? Activate the workbook. Which of the workbook? That is the workbook we are using now. So we say what? This workbook. Sorry. When we say this workbook, it means the workbook in which we are working now, not our external one. Talking of the one we are working on, we say this workbook. We've already declared the one we've created outside as WB. If I want to refer to that, I would have used what? WB. Okay, that is what I would have done. But the moment you say this workbook, it means the workbook which we are using. That's what I'm talking about. So say this workbook dot activate. Okay, tab it over. So now we are done. And now this line of action is going to activate what? The first sheet. That is the sheet one. That is the data sheet. And then from there, it's going to what? This particular line is also going to update the information on this particular form, which we already see here. And from there, we go ahead and then clear the content after submission. Now, after that, there are certain things we need to do. Okay, after clearing the content, now the external worksheet that we've just written to, or the external workbook that we've just written to, we need to clear that workbook from this workbook's memory. Okay, so that the two workbooks wouldn't contradict, else you see that it will be lagging. So to do that, this one line of code will do that. So we say what? Set. Just as we set sh to this particular sheet, now we want to clear it now. So we say what? We would want to clear that particular sheet after saving and storing our data on it. We would want to clear it from the memory. So we say set sh. We only do that if we have external workbook that we are writing to. That is what we do. In the previous one, we are writing into the same workbook, so we didn't do anything like that. But in this case, we are writing to what? An external workbook. So we need to clear that particular workbook and each worksheet that we are writing to from the memory. So we say set sh is equal to what? Nothing. Sometimes you can even say it's equal to what? Empty string like this. It means nothing. Let's go ahead and use the nothing function. Perfect. So that is that. Now the next thing is that we need to what? Close the workbook after everything is placed into it. We don't want to open it down. After we save our data into it, we need to what? Close it. So we say what? WB. Here I'm referring to that particular workbook. That is what I'm saying, WB. If it were to be this workbook, I would have said what? This workbook. So it means the external workbook. WB dot close. That is the workbook outside it was close. I want to set it to what? True. Meaning I want to close it. Okay, I don't want to. No. So WB that is close should be set to what? True, rather. That is a boolean. Okay, perfect. That is that. Now the last thing is this. After that, we need to clear that workbook just as we cleared the worksheet. So we say what? Set WB is equal to nothing. Okay. Is equal to what? Nothing. Perfectly. So now we are done. So now we can run our code and see what's going to happen. So to try it now, let's see if there wouldn't be any error, because just as we're doing those editing, and then we need to be very careful when editing, else sometimes there are certain things that you don't need. Now you end up leaving them there and they may affect you afterwards. So now let's check. Everything seems perfect. Let's go ahead and execute that and see. So let's come here and enter our data. Let's see. Agia Rashida. Then transaction date is what? 10/10/2020. Transaction amount is what? Blah, 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 blah. VS name is what? No, Mr. Rahman. VS contacts, blah 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 blah. Let's submit our data. Okay, perfect. It's closed. You can see that the workbook opened, take the data, and it's closed back. Now to confirm everything, you can see that. So I have only this particular workbook open. So let's just go to it. Let's open our folder that is VBA training. Let's open the workbook now. So you can see that our data is what? Stored inside it here. So perfect, that is that. So let me just Ctrl S to save it once again. It's already saved though, even if I were able to save it. So the moment we do that, everything is done perfect. Let's just open it and see now. Everything is intact. Let me just set it to have this contact here. Right click and go to format cells. Okay. Go to custom and set this to 0. Yeah. Click on OK. So we have contact. Perfect. Let me just save this. Now I've just closed it again. Let's add another thing. Let's see. Abdullah Al Hassan. Transaction date 23rd January 2021. Transaction amount 6,000 or whatever. Base name. Oh, why? Okay, maybe the 0 seems too much. Okay. Base name be a few are you. Forgive me for all these names, please. Contact. Let's submit it. This is going to happen. Good, you submitted. Yes, it's just the reason why this pop-up message is coming is because it's want to save, because we already set all that. We need to save it. Okay, after submitting to it, writing to we save it, and you can remember whenever we are saving into our workbook or we just go to save, this pop-up message comes. So that is our regular. Okay, then it closes back. Perfect. That is that. There's no problem, not any stress, and then nothing like that. So I think everything is working and working perfectly. Now let me just tell you something here. If I were to create this workbook, when I was creating this workbook here, this database stuff here, let me do something, please, so that pop-up message wouldn't come. So after that, I'll explain. Let me see if my guess will be right. Let's save everything now. Okay, let me just go through the lines of code for better understanding here. First of all, we just declared our variables, and then we added the workbook we just created in our folder. We deem it as WB and then set as workbook. Now here we went ahead and assigned variables, solid values to our variable, which are all coming from here. From there, we went ahead and set our workbook to what? Open it. So we went and copied the file path, and then we set update link, and then that is update link, and then reading to it to false, okay, because we're just going to write to it. That's all. We've done that. After that, we went ahead, when it's open and everything is stored into it, we want it to be activated. So we say wb.activate. That means that workbook should be activated. Now, since we have another sheet called data here in this particular workbook, To be specific, we said what? Set SH is equal to what? W, because we've already declared another one, dim SH, and the SH we're talking about here was this particular one, this particular data here. That is the worksheet here, okay? And we talked about that in our previous lesson. So in this lesson, we're talking about the workbook. So we want to be specific. So we say what? Set SH equal to WB. That is a workbook sheet called data. The data sheet in that external workbook is what we are referring to here. Now, this particular new row is what is used to determine the next row without data, okay? After that, now here, we use this line of code to write to that particular row that is determined without data. And after that, we want to activate this particular workbook. After that one is stored there, and then everything is done. I want to close it and then activate this one. After that, we want to activate sheet 1 here, and then after that, what do we want to do again? This information should be passed all over. So that is that. Then from there, we went ahead and clear the content from the various ranges here. Then to clear the workbook and then the worksheet from the memory and also close the workbook, we pass in this parameters. So we say what? Set SH go to nothing. It means after everything, that SH should be closed. We don't want to see, you don't want it to appear anywhere again. After that, we want to close the workbook. So we set that to true. Then the workbook too should be closed from the memory. So we set it to nothing. And after that, perfect, everything seems working. Just save it. Now let me close this workbook and do something, please. Let me just delete this particular as a name. Let me delete it, okay, and do something. Let me check something here first. I have the name, date, amount, base name, then base contact, date, name, date, amount, base name. Okay, so that I will not forget. Let me delete it and let's see something. I want to create new one again. Name it database. Double press to open it. I want to name this as data. We have name. What again? Amount. No. Transaction date, right? Yeah. Transaction dates. Amount. Payer's name. Payer's contact. Perfect. Okay. I want to increase this. Increase that. Increase this now. It should increase as well. No. This is too much. Payer's name rather should be increased. Then I would want to format it a bit just to I've saved it. Now let me close it. Let me copy the file path. So press shift right click. You say copy as path. Let me minimize it now. Okay, the folder. Now the workbook is closed. Now let me go back there and then open the project 5 now. Okay. Alt F11. I would want to edit this particular file path now. This one. Starting from here to here. I'll clear it and then control V to paste the new one I just copied. Now I'll save it now. Done. So let me write to that particular one that I've just created. Yeah, good. $21 transaction amount. Now payer's name. Baba. Payer's contact. And we'll submit to it. Okay. I was thinking if it was because I opened this book, which is a macro enable workbook, before creating the previous one. That is why I'm receiving that pop-up message. but it seems my guess was wrong. Because when I was trying it, it was not giving me that pop-up message. I was just trying to figure that out. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So that is how we can write to an external workbook without any problem, without any stress. So it's our next lesson, which is going to be on data validation. Going to validate our data. So till our next lesson, we say thank you very much for watching and bye for now.